Welcome to the presentation on framing research question. I hope the earlier presentation on the statement of the research problem was useful to you and you have been able to write a page or two on the research problem that you intend to work on. So once your research statement is ready, then it's time to ask questions, raise research questions, and frame research questions. So your research statement is now manageable in that sense, and you have to now introduce objectivity to the research problem. So once you introduce objectivity to the research problem, you will also find that you may want to make corrections or reformulate your research statement because some ideas will get much clearer than what it was earlier. What is the purpose of asking research questions? How do we frame research questions? When we write research questions, it helps us gain more information about the problem we are researching. It provides, in some sense, a clear focus and purpose of the research. Research question will provide you an indication of what kind of research are you going to take up. What is going to be the likely outcome of your research. Raising the question also makes you more precise, more clear, and more focused on the subject that you are working on. Focusing on very important aspect of research is what happens when we raise research questions. Very often research questions do not get the same importance as that of the research objectives. It is often believed that research objectives will anyway develop in course of time. But as I have been telling in the earlier sessions too, research is a very sequential way of learning in depth about something. And it is here that the questioning comes into place. So with asking questions, you will learn to get focused on your research, you will be clear, and it might help you to reformulate the statement of the research problem that you have written. There is a back and forth process that happens among all these units of the research proposal or the research introductory chapter. So you will find that once you have questioned something, the research statement gets sharper. If you have written your research statement better, then you will find that the later part of it becomes easier. So this kind of a to and forth keeps happening. Now, the question is, from where should we draw research questions? Simply asking research questions are not useful. There has to be a resource, there has to be a ground from where these questions are emerging. Now, one of the best ways to look for research questions is from the discipline that you belong to. The subject itself on that particular topic will have research questions. There are many parts of the subject that you are studying which may not have been answered fully in the discipline. So in such a case, you need to go back to your discipline, read that area in that discipline of yours well, if it is economics or political science or sociology or anthropology or whichever subject you're talking about, that particular section where this subject originates, you need to study that well. Once you go through the textbooks and learn those subjects well, you will also discover that there are theoretical backgrounds from which you can ask questions. There are assumptions which will make you question what is happening around. It can also be questions on the methodological issues. So, How has research been done so far? Is there a better way to do that? Does this method suit my research problem? So, like that, when you start questioning the assumptions, the outcomes of the theory, the context of the theory, or the methodological issues that have been tried earlier, then they can give rise to research questions. Each question, general question, must lead to more specific question. So when you ask more and more general questions, these general questions will lead you to more and more specific, which means your research is getting narrower and narrower, and it is getting more and more specific. That is the purpose of research question. And research questions are the dominant drivers of research and should lead the research design. So it would mean that if one was looking at unemployment, for example, then one need to understand that what are the theoretical structures that explain the problem of unemployment. In each of the discipline, it will be studied differently. So you can identify those structures, those theoretical background for that problem of unemployment, or you want to study the problem of poverty. So any of these, or international trade or international relations, or culture, in any of these subjects, what you may want to do is to discover the theoretical grounding of that, and in those areas find out what might be causing the kind of unemployment that you are doing, that you are observing around you. Is it something specific that you want to find out about unemployment? Because unemployment is a subject that have been studied for quite many years. But what is it that you would like to study about unemployment, or migration, or about environment, or about industries or firms, or you want to study about international trade, or any of these kind of, what is it that you want to study? So we need to get focused, ask general questions, but then once we begin asking questions, we seem to get funneled out, we seem to be narrowing down. So as we narrow down, our research gets more and more focused. And once we get more and more focused, we will move towards the research design. So it's important that we learn to question. Rudyard Kipling had this answer how to ask questions. He made this statement. He uses six honest serving men. Now, what are these honest serving men to do? Their job is only to ask questions. And who are they? So he used WH questions, five W's and one H. I keep six honest serving men. They taught me all I know. Their names are what and why and where and how and when and who. So these kind of questions can be the starting point for any researcher. You can use these questions and relate these questions to your subject, so you will find that these words will become useful to you as well. What? Let's try and see what kind of questions can be asked in what. What are the philosophical or theoretical origin to your research problem? What is a theoretical thing? There can be several theoretical origin to your problem. For example, if I would like to study something on the metro rail services, I may go back to the theory of infrastructure. From there, I may go into the balanced and unbalanced growth. I can go to uh, understanding what was the balanced growth or unbalanced growth, Hirschman's theory, and so on. So I may draw questions from the theories that may be related to the questions that I want to ask. I may not be clear as of now because I haven't completed the research literature review. So I have some idea about these theories because these have been studied during the master's course. So now what you do is raise those questions, may be right, may not be right, but start. What are the philosophical grounding of that? Which school of thought would you like to follow? The neoclassical, the Marxian, the classical, the Austrian? Which school? Which is that school? In each of your discipline, you will have schools of thought. It's a good idea to go back to the schools of thought and then discover which school of thought actually fits into the problem that you have raised. And raising big, getting to the school of thought will give you the philosophical leaning of that subject. That will give you the grounding to which you want, and then you can move into the theories that have been developed in that school of thought. It can be very useful to begin your questioning that way. This will also tell you what is it that you already know in that subject about the problem, and what is it that you do not know. So it is important to demarcate this. What is it that you know? What is it that I know about this subject? What are the things that I don't know? So you will find that I don't know is very large. That body of questions that you will have in I don't know is very, very large. And therefore, this I don't know has to be done in the next section, which is reading review of literature. Then, what are the important concepts and terms that make up this topic? Now, once you know the philosophical grounding, you know the theoretical grounding, then each of these subjects will also have important concepts. What are those concepts? What are those terms that are relevant to you? Identifying this concept, identifying these terms will be useful because that will assist you in searching for your literature. So, how you can see how one is connected to the other. So, if you have asked research questions well, then you will know which concepts have been used in that particular subject to explain that particular problem, and thus you will find keywords. Your keywords can also come out from this particular questioning. Then what are the boundaries of the problem, or what is the scope of the study? Now, it is quite possible that when we study one subject, it can have several dimensions to that study. Now, it is not possible to do in a doctoral work all these dimensions of study. So we need to learn to narrow down to something that is manageable. Because, uh, for example, if you want to study the issue of environment, and you would like to see how successful has been the policy of banning plastic in common usage. This has been followed by the governments at all many times. Now, for that, you now need to know what kind of concepts what level are you going to do. Are you going to see the using of concept in industrial purposes, in medical field, in the furniture field? Which kind of plastic are we talking about? So we need to now narrow down our subject and come to something very specific. Otherwise we will be searching all over the subject, and that is going to be a very blind chase. So we need to define the scope of the subject. Only this much and this far. We may read about a lot of things, but then when we want to research, we define a problem to something very limited. That sets in what is known as the scope of the study. Scope of the study is the view to how much are you going to address the issue, and those problems that come on this side or this side, you are not going to do it because that will take a lot of time away from the main theme that you want to study. You also want to know what is the academic relevance of what you're doing, what is the social relevance, and what is the practical relevance of what you're doing. This gives you a separate topic, subtopic later called importance of the study. So you can make a note of that. There are two important things that will come out from your questioning. One is setting the boundary for the study or scope of the study. Now, these terms will be useful to you when you write your research proposal. So the scope of the study will tell you to what extent you are extending the study, and the other one is what is the importance of that study. You will be able to ask that question. Why? Why are you taking up this research topic? Again, this will get you more clearer on your idea of the purpose of the research or the importance of the research or what we also called as relevance of the research. So when you ask questions in different ways, we get closer and closer to what we want to study. It removes many of those hazy ideas, many of those confusions that we have about what to study. Do we study that, and do we study this? So all these things can be removed when we start asking this kind of question. Why is your research important, and why is it different from others? So now here is a question to make your study become important. Again, so making your study important means finding out why your study is going to be relevant or important. This why is also the research map. It'll tell you which are those domains, which are those boundaries that you will travel around. And you know exactly how much are you going to travel with your research. Now you need to identify one or two questions that interest you in the topic and which you want to explore further. This will also take you to the framing of research objectives. So now you can see, once you start questioning your own statement of the problem, you have understood the methodological basis of it. You may try to question the theoretical basis of it, the philosophical basis for it. Then now you are saying that you will be able to define the scope of the research. And if you have defined the scope of the research, the next part will be identifying or stating what is the importance of your research or relevance of your research. Once you have reached relevance of research, here this question will also help you somewhere getting closer to understanding your objectives of the study. You have not anywhere reached near the objective. I'm just telling you, once you start questioning like this, some ideas will flash your mind. And this is the place where I said, have a little notebook with you, because these questions will come when you read this, when you listen to it. Then you will find some questions emerging in your mind. If these questions emerge, please write them down. Now, the how question: how sensible is to keep this topic to your interest? Are you really interested in this topic? Is it still interesting you? You still have time to alter the topic. You still have time to change the direction of your topic. You still have time. So, asking a question at this stage will prevent you from all those mishaps that happen when we, at the end of it or somewhere along after the work is over, then you said, this is not what I wanted to do. So, it is better here to ask those questions. How sensible are the topics that I am taking? Is it important to me? Is it interesting me now? How will you unravel that question? How will you know whether this question is going to be interesting or not? What kind of questions will further help you to understand that it is going to be of interest to you? So, researching is a constant stage of questioning our ideas, questioning um, mm, our philosophies of that subject, and we begin to get clearer on what we want to study. How has this topic and its concept evolved over time? So, you may want to study the history of that subject. This is what you will do. And when you study the subject, how has it evolved over time? For example, if you want to find out the urban landscape and you want to see what has been the preferences of people for high rise building, to live in high rise building, so you may get an answer now, but if you go back to that story, you will be able to understand how this idea of high rise building has got accepted, what has it done to families, why did families accept these kind of high rise buildings, and so on. It could be on the infrastructure, it could be on planting trees. You would have wanted to understand how the movement of protecting trees have started, or you may want to understand the debate of between environment protection and development that takes place. What kind of debates have been taking place? Do we want just development, or do we want development with environment protection? So how do we match these two? Are there solutions that can come? So how are we going to understand these concepts? How has it evolved over time? These ideas are not suddenly appearing. These ideas have evolved over time. How complicated or otherwise how difficult is your topic of research? How will you understand it is simple or difficult? You need to talk to people, you need to discuss with people, then you will get an idea about there will be some negative comments about your topic. There can be something very supportive comments to it. There will be somebody, yes, it is fine, but that's not the idea. You should be willing to take in those kind of things. Why are you studying this? What is the purpose of the study? So those questions should not let you down. Those questions should trigger more need in you to answer that question. You should be able to defend that question. Why am I studying that question? And how complicated is it? Is it very simple? No, it's a very simple subject. So what are you going to study in that? So if it is such a simple topic, then you should not get disheartened. Is there something that makes the subject complicated? Maybe the methodology can make it complicated. Maybe the way you're going to collect the data is going to be complicated. Maybe the tools that you're going to use are going to be complicated. So you need to assess for yourself which whether the study is very simple or whether the study is quite complicated. Decide on a testing method. So immediately from that will come your testing method. So how are you going to test your data that you're going to collect? How are you going to collect your data? What is the method that you're going to do? This how should tell you that consider the kind of information each question provides to you. Write this down. You debate within yourself, you argue within yourself. You will find that there are very conflicting answers that will emerge. But these conflicting answers will make you clearer and clearer. And whether it is or will answer your core research question. So this house should also answer the basic research question. Where? Where are you going to find answers to the question that you raised? Where are you going to find the answers that you questions that you raised? Where to look for the sources that can help you, right? Where are these resources available? Is it in the library? Is it in government departments? Is it in the field that you're going to collect the data, or is it from online resources that you're going to collect information? Where are you going to collect these resources from, and where are the people who can help you? Now once you take up a subject of study, then one of the very important thing that you can do is try and understand the research institutes, various research institutes in the country and abroad, and find out the authors of papers and see what are they studying, where are they studying, what are they studying. So when you start worrying about where are they studying, then you know who are those people who can actually help you out with your research. Some comment somewhere, you may read their papers, so you find out where are these research happening, your kind of research, which institute is actually taking up your kind of research. There are so many research institutes in the country, both government and research institutes in the country and abroad. Search for them. So where? Then you should be once you get these sources, then you should be able to get exactly where, who is a person, or where is that research happening. Look into their websites. You will find whether your topic of research is being carried out by that particular institute. Then you will find more resources that we will get by. Otherwise it will be a blind search. So it is good to ask these questions and find out where these answers will be coming from. Once you know where these answers are going to come from, you will be definitely saving time, and you would have learned very good skills of identifying resources for your research. And they will also strengthen your arguments. They will also support your argument, and it can also make you rethink on many of the questions that you had asked earlier. Where will you look for data? Now, for an economic student, data is very important. So the question is, where will you look for data? What are the various sources of data, even for other discipline? Where are the sources of data? Is it a time use survey that you want to search data from, or employment survey you want to took, NSSO data you want to see, or the family health survey? So where is that data that you are looking for? Which is the source of that a resource that you're looking for? So where are you going to get that data? And that will lead you to how the data has been collected by these organizations. So you will find that the moment you keep questioning about data, you will be able to discover how the others have done their research, where have they collected their research from, and which will tell you where to collect data from. Then, when all of this you get answers, when will you get the answers to all of these questions that you have asked? At what stage will these questions that you ask in research get its answer? Is it by reading that you're going to get the answers? Is it by opting the right methodology of work that you're going to get the answer? Is it when you have discussed with others you're going to get the answer? Or is it by by further debates and discussion you're going to get the answer? Where? When will you get these answers? So these kind of questions have to help you to ask I mean, it is in all these cases, it is just directing you to something more specific instead of getting lost at the end and not able to arrive at research questions properly. Here is a chance for you to go more organized into research. Research allows a very important skill to develop in researchers, and that is about being well organized. Otherwise, it's a very messy affair to do research with everything strewn around. We will learn how to manage resources well if you have planned your research well. Unplanned research is quite a waste of time. Unplanned research also takes away the motivation and energy to do research, because we tend to look for material all the time. We are searching for things all the time. So, like I told you in the last class, please have these little notebooks with you where you can write those questions and number those notebooks, because you will have so many questions that you're going to ask. Intellectually, you will be engaged with the topic for quite some time, for at least 3, 4, 5 years. And who will answer you the questions? So these questions that you have got, who will be your the best source of answer? Who will be the one who will support you in your questioning? Who is the one who will allow you to go ahead or support? How do you build your relationship with your research supervisor? So these are also very important. Not only research supervisor, with the other faculties in the institute that you are working with, there will be people who are willing to help you with some idea of or the other. So it is important for you to build the relationship with the supervisor in such a way that you have a free communication and you're able to access information, seek support, seek guidance, and at the same time a critical appraisal of what you are doing. Now we need to look at being objective by this stage, because being subjective, we are opinionated, and once we are opinionated, research takes its own curves and turns which may not lead us anywhere. So the moment we become objective, it becomes easy for you to start working on the next stage of research. Now, research is essentially a task where we are asking questions and we are gaining knowledge through asking questions. So, questions are the dominant drivers of research and should therefore lead to your research design. And finally, questions are addressed by researchers. They are necessary for framing the question, they are necessary for focusing the research, they are necessary for critiquing and ultimately resolving the research goals. So we learn to develop our research questions, or sorry, the research objectives from this questioning that we are doing. Some researchers start with a research question, um, something that strikes them, and they ask questions. Some researchers come up with questions out of curiosity, and then curiosity driven questions can allow them to grow further. Some others may wait for this questioning section, and as they proceed along, questioning goes on through the entire process of research. So, some may not be able to ask this many questions as I have suggested. So, in that particular case, they may continue, they may start their work, and as and when this study progresses, they may have questions about further questions that we can come. So, as I have tried to mention to you, that these questions will keep leading you to further door opens. It's like a door. So one door is open, then you have a second door, you have a third door, and when you have opened the third door, when you go in, you'll find another door there and yet another door there. So each door will lead you to rooms and rooms behind that. So that is what questioning should do to you. And they ask, what questions may have been answered by this research? So when you take up books to read, when you read thesis to read, then you will be able to ask a question. What is this book at the end of that answer? What kind of research questions have they answered? So asking question is a way of conducting research, and it allows you to become much more focused than before. The type of question posed will reveal the kind of research that you're going to do. When research questions are very grounded and you are left with about 5 or 6 questions about the entire research that you're planning to do, then it is very easily understandable what is the kind of question that you're going to do and what will be the kind of insights and knowledge that you are going to get from the questions that you have asked. So creativity in asking questions is very important. So put your creativity hat and start thinking about the topic. Let questions flow. Don't judge the questions in the beginning. Let the questions flow, but once the questions flow, you will be able to remove so many questions as you go by. And once these questions have gone by, you will be left with 5 or 6 important questions, and that will decide the kind of research that you're going to do. So, so, so it's important here at this stage to work on framing the questions. The questions should be open ended. It could be simple, it could be relevant, it could be time related, it could be knowledge related. In any of these ideas, these questions will give the scope of your subject. It will allow you to think about the methodology of the subject. It will allow you to see sources of data for your subject. It will allow you to build your research design. It will also tell you about the importance of the study. So there are a series of activities that will happen when you question, and all these becomes a part of your research proposal. So helping you to prepare research proposal, I have told you about these issues of asking questions. So ask questions, you will be reaching to the key concept. You will also learn which are the key concepts that you need to look for when you are searching for literature. So all of this put together, this framing of question is a very important part of research. Now assign time for each of them and pursue them. Write down and then cut them off if they don't find relevant. Keep keep saving the important questions. These important research questions will help you to reformulate your statement of the research problem. So it's a continuous up-down process that will happen, and as you go by, you will find you get more and more clear about the topic that you are studying. So I think we can go to the next topic, which will be on review of literature. So now you know the discipline, you know the area that you are interested in, the narrow area, then you have come to the research statement. Today you have understood research problems, and next week, having done all of this, now the keywords are ready with you. We can start reading relevant literature in the next one. So I hope these lessons have been useful to you, and please share it with your other research scholar friends, and also subscribe to this channel so that more researchers can watch this video and benefit from the presentation. Thank you very